Hi, welcome back to Facts Don't Matter, the show where we talk about known fisheries facts that don't seem to matter to anyone. Sorry, I had to get that one out. Down at the lake again, checking out the progress of the drain down. Check this out. The water was usually up there. Now it's way down there. Oop, nobody wants to see the post, idiot. And you can see it's beaching all the water lettuce, drying it out and killing it. Unfortunately, it's also drying out and killing eelgrass. And if you look across, I don't know if you can see over there, I don't know how well that's showing up on the forward-facing camera. If I was good, I would zoom in and edit in a, maybe you can see it this way. This is the section of the river where people hate their boat props. That in there. They didn't cut any of the trees out when they made the lake. So it's just a ridiculous amount of stumps out there. One thing I'm going to be looking for too, I don't know if you guys can see right here, the areas where there's going to be shell beds. You're going to see all the spring heads in there, all the shell beds in there, all the habitat in there. That'll hold fish that's not just sand bottom. That's a good point to bring up too. Ooh, I need to get the kayak. Of course, I've got a doctor's appointment, so I can't, but you know. Anyway, the differences in substrate. You'll find bass hang around, fish in general hang around those differences. So something to be aware of when you're dragging the bottom, say with a worm or something, and you find some rocks, you find some shells or wood or whatever the difference is. It could be a totally rock bottom and you find some wood, right? Doesn't matter. I'm just looking for the changes. My allergies are kicking up today, sorry. So keep that in mind on your lakes, you know, when you're fishing. Look for the little subtle changes and you'll find the fish. And I just know that from running an electro fishing boat all these years. It's like little things that clue you in, you know, as to what's going on. Deer season opened up. Right back that way is the Ocala National Forest. And I guess we can tie that into Facts Don't Matter, bring it around to catch and release, and how it seems like guys completely understand that harvesting deer is necessary to maintaining a healthy deer population. Even people who don't really like hunting understand that. But for some reason, once we go into the water, something's chasing mullet. No telling, probably a bull shark. Once we go into the water, all those facts go out the window. And for some reason, we can magically just be returning all the bass and not expect population issues. I think the problem with bass is they're too tough. They don't die. They do get diseases. They do get parasites. They do get really skinny and poor looking, but they just don't die and float. And that's the triggering mechanism that lets people know. Hawk's got something to say about it. The death of the fish is the trigger. So every excuse in the world will be made for the skinny bass eating plastic worms or spawning stress, or I don't know. I could probably think of 10 more if I tried, but I don't want to. When the fact of the matter is, they just lack protein and they're skinny because they've been released. Their population has been mismanaged. It'd be the same thing as switching off deer season. But the problem, or what you would find there, is the deer will get disease. They will die. There'll be dead deer everywhere, and that will panic people into doing something about it. Where our bass populations just suspend. They just live in that animated, suspended state of living without growth. They're able to do that. And that's a problem because it doesn't trigger that oh my God, we're screwing up the way a fish kill does. And I just know it from working around ponds, private lakes and stuff. One example I can think of that happened many times, I would go to the homeowners associations and say, you know, this is the list of services that I offer for managing your pond or lake. And part of it would be a fish population analysis. Well, people would just redline it, you know, take it right off, because they didn't want to pay for it. And they weren't fishermen, they didn't care. So they took that right off. And then you get something pop up a few years later. Usually it was a spawning stress, crappie would be in there. And you'll see some few years you'll see crappie spawn, and it's because the entire crappie population really shouldn't be in a small impoundment. They stunt badly. They'll all be about paper thin, about the size of your hand. And the stress of spawning, because they're living in a poor condition to begin with, they don't have the food or the resources to sustain their health, and the spawn will kill them. And one way you can tell it's generally a spawning kill is when all the same species of fish are dead. People would panic and they'd want tests run and send the water to the lab, all that junk. But all the fish dead down the bank were crappie. And I'd always say, don't worry about doing any of that. It's spawning stress, because the crappie are in a horrible condition. And we didn't know that because you guys redlined the fish population assessment. So generally at that point, the fish population assessment would be reinstated into the contract, but then they would think that somehow that magically corrects the fish population without anybody in the community going down there and helping me. And I see that trend a lot too, with our public water fisheries, and how the public biologists are treated in the management of these fisheries. It's like anytime there's a fish related injury or kill or whatever, it's always the state biologist's fault for not doing their job, when in fact it's everybody's responsibility to understand fisheries management and wildlife management and do their part, because it's way too big for a couple of biologists to manage that effectively. I could manage it in a pond because it's small enough environment that I could manage that, but that requires the public's health. It requires everybody being on the same page, and it's a big reason why I come on here and do this, in an attempt to get everybody on the same page. And it seems to be stalling out. I don't seem to be acquiring more following or having much impact outside of the 40,000 or so good people who tend to follow all my platform, but it's stalled on me. And I'm just trying to work through ways. I'll take any ideas on how to make the facts matter again. And I promise I'm not crying. I should be crying probably, but it's just allergies. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Thanks for tuning in to Facts Don't Matter. See you next time.